So today we have the lovely Mandy. Thank you so much, Mandy, for chatting today. And we are chatting about Mandy's journey, which is a very complex one with lots of highs and lows, but she's going to share her journey from anxiety, allergies, eczema, and TSW. So that's topical steroid withdrawal. So Mandy just had like everything. So it's a lot to juggle. So I think that it's going to be a really powerful chat today. And she has some really great turning points in her journey as well, which I think will be really helpful for people going through not only one of these aspects, or not going through all of it, but even just going through one of them. So thank you, Mandy, and welcome.
Oh, no, I'm so happy to be here.
And you are looking so good when we're doing the before and after pictures. Yeah. And there was also, and you know what, that's the thing too, where throughout this journey, people are like, I'm feeling good, but my skin's not still there. And you've hit that turning point where you're feeling good and looking beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So to get started, it's always helpful just to get a gauge and like rewind back to your journey and when it all started.
Yeah, so for me, from like my earliest memories have had eczema, like being a little baby and just being like, it went all through like my childhood. I had it really bad until I was like 12 years old. And I just remember like I have these memories of being like 6 and 7 and in the summer times in Canada wearing shorts, and my eczema was really bad on the back of my knees. And I just remember thinking like, oh, like I hope no one looks at it. And like my parents would try everything. And then like most people, like I grew out of it. So I went through like all of my schooling without like really experiencing much of it. I had it a little bit on my hands. And then for me, it was just like, it just came back with a vengeance in 2019 at the very end of the year. And like interesting time because it went into a pandemic like 3 months later. And then from there, it just was like exacerbated. It like really took off. And it was mostly on my face, and my hands were pretty bad. And I didn't know what to do. I was thinking it was like food allergies. I like something in my house that I was allergic to, like mold. I lived in an older house. And I thinking it was everything under the sun except eczema. And I went to a dermatologist, and she was like, it took me a long time to get to one. And she was like, no, it's eczema. Like you have a history. And I was like, whoa, like it came back so aggressively. It kind of like shocked me. I didn't even know what to do. So yeah, I tried everything with her, from like steroid creams, elimination diets, like blood work, allergy testing. Like I tried so many things and nothing was working. And so yeah, I found you before I went through steroid withdrawal, but it was just such a struggle. Like even to this day, like I'm just finally like feeling better about it now, but it's been almost 3 years of just like constant, just like, what is happening? What do I do? Like feeling so lost. And yeah, it's really nice to be here now because it was definitely a long journey, but yeah. That's the history of it all.
Yeah. And I think thanks for sharing that. And it's very, like I say, with everybody, textbook eczema, had it as a kid manageable in those areas, behind the knees, the creases. And then it's that point in usually it's in the 20s or 30s where it's just like bang everywhere. And then that's when it's confusing because you're like, I know my skin and I know how I react to my environment, and it's not like this. It has to be something else.
It was so different. As a kid, it was on my face and I remember being pretty bad. But I just, for some reason, was in denial. I was like, it can't be eczema. And then when it was, I was like, what do I do? Like, I'm older now. And like, my life is different. I didn't want to rely on the steroid creams, obviously, because I have, my qualms against those. But yeah, it's nice to finally take hold of it in a holistic way, and know that there's not just like a cream you need to get and like a supplement you have to take. Like it's a whole well-rounded, like going through your program. It's amazing. Just coming out the other side of it. It's so good.
Yeah. And so back to when you had the rashes that were popping up on your face, like how was that affecting you day to day?
it was just kind of something that I was like, I guess this is what I have to live with right now. It was kind of like a hopeless feeling, really. I just remember waking up and being like, what's my face going to look like today? Like, am I going to eat something that's going to make it react? Am I going to come into contact with something? Like, I feel like I was reacting to like everything under the sun, and it was like scary. Like, I think I kind of developed a bit of a odd relationship with food because I was scared of everything making my skin react. And I was just like, it was a helpless feeling, even going to derms, then being like, here's a steroid cream. And then I'm just like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not working. And I used a couple that were non-steroidal that I also had a withdrawal from. And it was just like every end was a dead end. And I was like, what do I do? Like, it was just, yeah, it was an overwhelming feeling of being in my mid 20s. And like, I was planning on moving back down to Australia, and there was just so much happening around me. And I think that was also contributing to how my skin was reacting as well. Like, now knowing how big of a factor stress is, like looking back, definitely was stressing myself out and stressing my skin out. For sure.
Everything in hindsight, right? You're like, yeah, I see how I can literally think my way into that flare up.
Honestly,
I did
like,
that so many times as well.
Yeah, I'll think about things that are stressful and I'm itchy, and then I'm like, okay, I don't need to do this to myself. And it really does work. Like, coming out of the program, you can genuinely like kind of think yourself out of an itch attack for sure. And then hopefully in turn a flare.
Yep. Yeah. So some of the things that I talk about with everybody, and also particularly in our group, is trying to understand those drops in the bucket. So for you, there was just, you had it as a kid, you had a lot of allergies as well. So there's just, those external things that are outside of your control. And then internally, you were eating food, like healthy food. It's not like you would have, like, Mandy has a really good diet.
That was the hardest part. I would eat an avocado and be like, what is happening?
Yeah. So there's that food aspect when, it's not just eating sugar or drinking alcohol or those classic things, but healthy foods too. And then there's also, within the drops in the bucket, that mental aspect as well. So a lot of times, and what we did at the beginning is pinpointing when was that point when we haven't been well since. And then there's always, you can kind of pinpoint what was happening in life around that time. And yeah, can you tell us a little bit about, I mean, you have to go into specific,
pandemic was happening. That was a lot. I was living back in Canada. I'm in Australia now. Was living back in Canada and was planning a move to Australia, and with my boyfriend, who is Australian. And so there was that happening. There was a pandemic happening. There was just a lot of like personal things going on as well. And just being in your mid 20s, I feel like there's already enough happening internally. And yeah,
totally.
There's a lot going on. And I did have a ton of allergies, and I didn't think that any of those could be contributing, but I never really looked at my eczema as like with the seasons. And obviously in Canada you experience all 4 seasons, because when I was 12 years old, like I was never taking note of the external factors and how they affected my skin. So then coming back in my 20s, I could take note, but like I wasn't, because I was just kind of so confused and at a loss with all of it. But then you realize that there are just so many factors, and I think mentally I had a lot going on that was definitely the culprit. And then a few health issues as well, like some gut issues and everything like that. So there was so many things going on. So many things.
Yeah. And that's an important one too, that it's not just one thing. So when we talk about the root cause, it's always multiple things happening and contributing factors as well. And a lot of them, when we talk about the cycles, they loop into each other. And this is where the allergy eczema is a cycle. And then there's the anxiety eczema. That's a cycle. And then there's having eczema that creates stress. You're just like in these loops of insanity, which is really, really, really hard. Plus also pandemic. So, and then also TSW. So you just like, you had everything, Mandy. So once you get through that period of life, you can do anything.
I truly feel like, you can throw anything at me and I would brush it off. It's nothing. It's nothing for me. And just like in saying that, it's like, it's nice to joke about it now, but in the like in the thick of it all,
Right.
it was rough. It was like TSW was probably the hardest thing I've ever gone through. I mean, I'm 27 now, and I'm sure I'll encounter a lot of other hard things in my life, but to date, that was truly the hardest thing. And it's unfortunate because it's something that the like medical professionals, they tell you it's safe to do and to use, and you rely on it to treat your eczema, but really steroid withdrawal is truly 10 times worse than having eczema. It's so much harder. Yeah, it was a struggle.
Yeah. And it's hard because, when you said that you got to that dead end and felt defeated, because you'll go to and I don't have anything against the conventional medicine route at all, and taking steroids for a short period of time and trying not to use them on your eyes or places where there's high absorption. Sometimes you do need them, but when there's that point where it's like, this is the only solution, right? And then it's like, oh, it has nothing to do with food. You're like, but I eat these foods, and I start scratching. There has to be something to that. But yeah, can you tell, so for anybody who doesn't know about topical steroid withdrawal, so not always, but if you do use high strengths or in those high absorbable areas, your body can withdraw. So yeah, can you kind of explain what happened during that period for you?
Yeah, for me, I was always kind of using a steroid cream on my hand. It was a pretty potent one. And so I've had like eczema on my hands as long as I can remember. And like I'm 27 now. So to be using that for 27 years, it's not sustainable. Like steroids do have their place, and I'm all for that, for using them in the time frame that you're supposed to. And if they help you, if they give you relief, that's great. But knowing what I know now, it's just not something that you should rely on. And so I was using something called Elicon on my hands and Liderm, I think they're interchangeable, on my hands for 20 plus years. And then when my face started getting bad, I took an oral steroid that was prescribed by a dermatologist, prednisone, I believe it's called. I took that for like 3 days, and I had already I knew what steroid withdrawal was. I had done my research, and I said to her, I was like panicking. I was like, I don't want to withdraw from this. Like, I know what steroid withdrawal is. And she was like, no, you won't. Like, this one dose will be fine. And it wasn't the oral steroid. I don't think it was definitely the topicals that I used. So my doctor, the derm prescribed me something called Elidel and then Eucrisa. And those are non-steroidal, but I started with those for my face. And then I had a withdrawal about like 3 months in, because neither were working, and they weren't pleasant to use either. They really burned on your skin, and I just stopped using them because I wasn't getting relief. And then when I stopped, it was the Elidel that I was using last. I had a week-long withdrawal. It was like a mini version of TSW, and it was just like swelling and redness, and I was like, what is going on? And you feel so alone. Like, I did my own research and like helped myself through it. And my doctors, like the dermatologist straight up said to me that it's not common to get a withdrawal. And she was like, it probably wasn't a withdrawal. It was probably just a flare. And when you hear that from a medical professional, you're just like hopeless. I just felt like just very let down and not understood. And then, so I didn't go back to that dermatologist. I just kept seeing my regular doctor in Canada. And he prescribed me just a hydrocortisone. It was one you could get over the counter. It was just a 0.01%. And so I was putting that on my face, and it was all over my face. Like, it was on my eyelids, it was on my lips, it was truly everywhere. It was on my ears, my neck, it was from the neck up. So I was using that, and I was just like at a dead end. I was like, if this is the only way that I can go out and look normal and feel normal, then I'm going to do it. And so I was using it. He warned me, obviously, to only use it like sparingly when I needed it. But he then later prescribed me a different type of steroid that I found out was stronger. And I was using that probably like maybe once a week on my face. And this was probably for 6 months, like off and on, but interchangeable between these two, I think it was called Liderm and the 0.01 hydrocortisone. So I used those for 6 months. And then one day, I remember after watching 1,000 YouTube videos, I just went into the bathroom and I threw all of my steroid creams in the garbage. And I was like, I can't use these. I'm not going to use these. It's not working for me. And it's just not the way that I want to treat my eczema, and I could feel the withdrawal coming on. It took a week to start, but when it happened, I was like, okay, I just need to brace myself. I just need to go through it. And it was a very lonely and tragic experience. And luckily the timing of it was amazing, because I went into lockdown 4 days after it started, or 4 days before it started, sorry. So I just kind of had the space to just be with it. And it truly was terrifying. It was just, yeah, your body's going through a withdrawal from a drug. And essentially what happens is it goes in cycles. So first you have swelling, and it was just localized to my face at the time. So it's just swelling at first, and then just major redness, major burning, and like an itch that you physically can't scratch, no matter how much you try. It's brutal. And then you go through like a flaking phase, and it's just, that's your skin regenerating. And every time that would happen, I would just try and be at peace with it and be like, okay, this is my skin. The skin, I don't need it anymore. My body's trying to heal itself, and I just need to like be strong and get through it. And it happened probably for about a month. My skin was just red raw and thin and itchy, and I was unrecognizable. Like you can see the pictures, it was pretty bad. And then after that, I had a bit of relief. I had probably like a week or two of clear skin, and I was thinking like, maybe I'm one of the lucky ones, maybe I'm gonna, like, this is it, because some people miraculously somehow heal really quickly, and they truly are lucky. But I went back into another cycle, and then the same thing, but slightly less severe, like a lot of redness, burning, swelling, and then back into like the flaking phase. And that probably happened. It happened off and on for 6 months, with each flare getting like a bit less severe. And then when I got to Australia, probably about 4 months ago now, and 3 months ago, it started moving to my body in certain spots. And it just kind of resembled eczema, but it was spots I've never had eczema. So I knew it was a steroid withdrawal. And that's what it does. It mimics eczema, but usually it will be all over your body. And yeah, it's confusing also to differentiate it from eczema and TSW, or to differentiate it from eczema. On my face, I would literally be like staring at it and be like, okay, is this a flare or is this eczema? And you do eventually like get to differentiate the two, but it's hard. So I do feel like I'm on the tail end of TSW now, but it was quite a wild ride, one I never want to go on ever again. But yeah, I learned a lot, and I will probably never use a steroid again, no matter what, if my life depends on it. They're just not for me. And some people, if they need relief, absolutely, I condone it. But yeah, just for me and my experience, I just think it's just not something that, for one, it's not really something that the medical world even addresses. Like medical professionals, like some of them don't even really believe that it's real. And it should just be something that there's more awareness around, and something that patients are warned about who use steroids, because I certainly wasn't, but educated myself. And I feel like I was on like 1,000 different forums, like Facebook, Reddit, like a bunch. And it was just people educating themselves and learning from each other about how to heal and what to do. And it was a pretty powerful community, and I definitely learned a lot. And I credit a lot of these sites just to my healing and keeping me sane. But steroid withdrawal is definitely, it was a struggle for the books.
Yep. It's one thing that you would never wish it on anyone. I don't know personally, but I've seen a lot of people go through it. So yeah, it's also important to, like you had said, differentiate, am I going through TSW or is this eczema? Because there's different things that you need to be doing. And also, like, I do remember at one point you're like, oh, this is an eczema flare. Oh, this is TSW flare. Because you got to that point where you could kind of feel. But there's like the bone dying itch, that like the itch you can't scratch is definitely stuck. Like the itch is different.
The itch comes from your soul with TSW, but eczema, it does. It really, it does. I'm like shuddering thinking about it. And then eczema is just more surface level, and I feel like it just presents itself differently. And there's a different like tingling feeling when you get a flare, so I would just be cycling back and forth between those things. And if I can regulate my stress levels through that, I can regulate my stress levels through anything for sure.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. Okay, so I think you started the program or before stopping the steroids, and then so we kind of went on that journey together. So yeah, and it's hard when you're dealing with TSW. So some people go through TSW and then their skin's fine, but then some people go through TSW and then you have to deal with eczema after. So that's the hard part. So you also are dealing with like post TSW eczema, which is quite common for people, right? Because it was just hiding what was just there anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've been going on kind of a dual journey in that sense. So it does require a lot of patience, and just from observing you when you started, you're very health conscious and, doing all the things. You're definitely one of the people that loves Pinterest and watching the videos. So yeah. Yeah. In your gratitude, it's like YouTube videos.
You should see my YouTube playlist. It's like recipes, like workouts. It's all just like wellness related. That's my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess what was because you had a bank full of knowledge. And that's a thing that I see with a lot of people too, is that they are accumulating a lot of knowledge, which is good to a certain extent, but also, and something that we talk about in the program too, there can be a level of overwhelm when you're living, breathing, and constantly researching as well. And especially, I know for some people doing the TSW forms are helpful, but sometimes it can get people into a dark place as well. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, you kind of went down the road of accumulating a lot of things, but then also it is a lot of the application and also having support that can be really helpful. So what was one of the turning points and aha moments for you?
Yeah, during the group, when I started to be able to, like, kind of in between TSW flares and dealing with my eczema, one of the first aha moment for me was the correlation that I made, that I learned from you, with a histamine intolerance, which was my eyes were watery for probably like just watery and dry for like 2 years straight. And I always had a bit of a runny nose and I had no idea why. And then I started working with you, and you just like asked me on a call one day, I think, you're like, do you have itchy eyes and like a runny nose sometimes? And I was like, yeah, all the time. And then started cutting out some of those things like chocolate, coffee, all the like bananas, avocados, all of the, like, my favorite, that's my breakfast right there. Like all of those things. I just stopped eating them.
Bone
And then
broth is one too.
yeah, the histamine, the bone broth, yeah. And oats. And oats was blisters. I would get blisters on my hands. That was another aha moment. But the histamine, I like couldn't believe it. I just stopped eating these things, but I knew that it was temporary and I could eventually like reintroduce them as I went. But that was the first one, how easy that correlation was to make. Harder to like implement, obviously, but just recognizing that it's so sometimes if I get like watery eyes and a runny nose, like a little bit, I'll just be like, okay, I have to back off these things. So that was really powerful for me. And then the other one probably came after the bulk of the program, after all, like, or kind of during the brain skin series that we've been doing with Karen, which are amazing. And it's just taking a second and stopping and focusing on your breathing. It's like that flashlight analogy that she used. I thought that was so powerful. And you just take a second and you like, if you're itchy or you're stressed or something, just take a second, check in with yourself, the butterfly tapping and just breathing. Like, I remember just being anxious over something one day, I can't remember. And I just like stopped and I said, okay, I feel stressed. I need to deep breathe, because I know that always calms me down and instantly stops my scratching. And it does. And I thought that was crazy how just a simple like reset of your nervous system just like really is so powerful and changes everything. And if the more that you implement that, the easier it gets to calm yourself down when you're worked up or you're itchy or you're about to go into a flare. So I love that. I do that still. I'll be doing that for life. Just taking a second and deep breathing. It's something I'm more conscious of now, is focusing on my breath, my breathing, because like if you're shallow breathing, you're probably not really noticing how you're feeling and you're not paying attention to like if you're scratching or if you're overthinking or something. So if you just
Mhm.
focus on your breath, it really does regulate a lot of bodily systems.
Yep. Because if you're shallow breathing, you're literally in your fight and flight. You're like in
Yeah.
panic mode. So even if you're not panicking in your head, if you're shallow breathing, that's the physical response of being in
And
panic.
it's crazy
So that's
how
how
it
your
just goes
body
yeah.
totally. Yeah. So yeah, this is a good example of being in tune with your symptoms. So, okay, you have these, so histamine load. So just as a disclaimer for people listening, because everybody always likes to hear other people's success stories, which is great and obviously really, really good to share. But that doesn't mean what works for Mandy works for everybody. Although the brain skin does work for everybody. And that's across the board.
Everybody, even without eczema. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you do one thing, that's it. But the picture with the histamine, if you do have histamine issues, it can be systemic and it can be more gut related. So we identified that it was both, right? You have allergies and also you were getting those like histamine overload symptoms. So again, not forever. We just need to be able to start producing the enzymes to break it down. But that's a really good example of, okay, so what was going on for you? Like, let's look at your timeline. What symptoms are you experiencing? Oh, after you eat these foods, and I think one of the, bone broth and the avocados, you started noticing those hay fever-like symptoms. So we're like, okay, well, that's going to lead us. And that's a cool example as well, is just looking at your symptoms, right? We don't need to get lots of the fancy tests done, just understanding how's my body reacting to this. And then also, yeah, the stress part too. So it can be really hard as well, because we do some food and we do food and symptom diets, especially when you know that directly you're itchy from food. And again, it's not food for everybody. And the problem isn't food. It's the reaction that your body has. It's not food, it's you. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool just to be able to get in tune with your body and understand that, okay, what can I control? I can't control when there's pollens outside, but I can control what I'm eating. And that's your long-term approach, right? So if I know at a moment in time, like your body's going to change in a few years and you won't be as triggered by it. But if I know that trigger season is coming up and I know I'm eating these foods, okay, maybe I just won't eat as much of them and then support my immune system so I don't have this crazy reaction that turns into a 3-year flare up. And that's freedom. Or if I'm highly stressed, I have these tools to help bring me back down.
Yeah, so many good tools. And I started the program with you in the spring in Canada. So it was it was a lot.
You had just everything, Mandy.
Everything you could think of. Yeah, it was in my bucket. The bucket was full.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, your bucket was full in every single way, the emotional, the physical, all of it.
Yeah, you name it.
Yeah.
It was in the bucket.
Yeah.
Love that analogy. It's so true.
It's like, it's just so relevant for everything. And like, you get it right away. You're like, anybody who's had eczema and they've struggled with chronic flares, they're like, oh, my bucket's so full. Like, yeah, I get it.
Even realize it. Yeah. So like, there's nothing, like, it's nothing that a cream is going to fix. And that, like, coming out of the program, there's just like so many myths debunked. Like, there's no cream, there's no cream. It's just all internal. And it's nice to like have that knowledge now.
Yeah. And that's freedom too, because when you're in the thick of it and you're just like, I feel so defeated because there's only one solution. And then also at the beginning too, it is hard because when you are specifically triggered by food, and not everybody is, but it's like, oh, what I'm eating, right? And then it was trigger season, allergy season, and it's just like everything's compounding. So really focusing on one thing or just on what you can control is really powerful. And that brain skin connection is the one that you can always control. So that's freedom when you understand what your triggers are, focusing on the one thing you can control, the food that you put in your mouth and your reaction to whatever's happening in life. That's freedom.
Yeah, definitely. It feels good.
Okay, so where are you now? So you're still on the journey, but what is life like for you now compared to where you were So it's like 6 months ago, just over.
Yes. Yeah. 6 months ago now, I think. It's so different. I view health differently. I view nutrition differently. I view my gut health differently because yeah, I had a lot of gut issues, and just knowing what I know now and working on it, like I've definitely felt I'm reaping the benefits of like that, like rebalancing your gut and everything. And one thing, a big thing for me, like with changing the diet and working on the gut and everything, I have absolutely no PMS symptoms, which is crazy. Like my whole life, I have always just had like horrible period cramps and like heavy flow and so many things. And it's just my periods are like a breeze now. And I think that's crazy, just what you can change like with your diet and everything else. Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, this space has definitely helped me realize that it's a space I want to be in. I think that's the biggest part. And it's just amazing to go through, like looking back, going through all of these hard things and learning everything. It's just the silver lining is now I genuinely feel like this is my purpose in life, to help people and to get into the space. It's just, it feels good. And being in tune with my body, that's another thing. I was not in tune at all. And it's just so nice to be in tune and just, yeah, to check in with myself in ways that I never would have before. And I think that I have this kind of new trust with myself because I did something for myself. I invested in my health and like working with you. It was just amazing. And I learned so much. And I just have this new relationship with myself now. And it comes just from taking care of myself and doing everything in the program. Like, yeah, it's made me like closer to myself. And I just have a new sense of trust that I can just kind of get through anything after going through all of these hard things. And yeah, the program really just it puts you on a path to clear skin, but it's so much more than that. I think a lot of people would agree. There's so many benefits coming out of it. Like my stress levels are amazing. They haven't been this good in so long. And there's truly so many benefits, but yeah, go on and on.
And what are some things that you can do now that you weren't able to do, let's say, a few months ago because of your
Well, I
skin?
definitely couldn't identify my triggers for sure. Like knowing that there was foods that I thought were healthy that were actually kind of triggering to me, that's crazy. Like I never would have thought that was something that could happen. So that, and just regulating my stress, and yeah, being in tune. And I think the group has helped me also with all the support within the group and everyone kind of sharing their experiences. You just kind of gain this like new little community, I guess, and a sense of support. And I view my eczema differently now. It's not something that has to hold me back if I'm having a bad skin day. I have just a different mindset around it. And before I thought it was something I just had to live with. I thought this was my fate. This is just me. It's just a part of me. But no, there are actual ways to heal and to help. And it's not just, yeah, it's not something you have to live with. And it doesn't hold me back, and I can still move forward with my life and not from having a bad skin day. It doesn't ruin my whole day. It doesn't ruin my whole mood. And I think that's a big one. I'm not ashamed of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And that's I think, yeah, a lot of people, they just change their baseline of normal. They're just like, all right, just get on with my day. I just have to live with it. And then also, I remember a big turning point for you is also just trying to detach from, like, we talk about your different flare, like how your flare cycles, and it's hard and it's easy to be like, to ride the roller coaster of great skin days and then being in a flare. And it's helpful to understand, when your body is healing, right? When it's dry and flaky, that's great. But you can also ride the waves. So I think I remember you saying that detaching from that outcome was really helpful, and just
Yeah,
understanding
you
that
almost
this is a process and it's
Yeah,
okay.
my motto through this whole thing, like TSW, the program with you, has just been to trust the process, because there are days where you really are on that roller coaster ride, and it does seem dark, and it does seem, when you're in the thick of it, like there is no way out of it. But you have to detach, and I feel like a lot of that came from learning about your stress management in the Brain Skin series. I started detaching and just being like, telling myself that, you know, better days are coming, clearer skin is coming. This isn't your, like, it's something you're experiencing, but it's not who you are. It's not, it doesn't define you. And just speaking nicely to myself made a big difference. And yeah, you just have to detach, because I feel like if it's all consuming, then you won't be in a state to heal. You'll never get to that rest and digest state if you are just so attached to it. And it's easier said than done, but it definitely comes with being in the program, trusting the process.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be helpful for some of the other members that are in the program at the moment. So if there are any that are watching now or the replay, drop me a yes if you can relate to that, because it is hard when you're in the thick of it and it doesn't happen overnight. So Mandy's on the other side of it now. I think it's around 6 months post or maybe even more. So it is, especially when you're in it, like, you know, Mandy had so much going on. So when you're in the thick of it and you have a lot going on, it does take time. And sometimes it is hard when you're like, like Mandy would show up to the calls every single week and, you know, do all the things like you are star student. So well done for that. So it is hard. And I understand, like, you're literally living and breathing in a really like debilitating state and you're doing all the things. So naturally you expect an outcome right away. So a lot of times, yeah, I always try and say, think about how long your body's in a state of dysfunction and symptoms have been there. So it does take time. So yeah,
You
I
have
just
to
want to
be,
honor you and say, well done for showing up and sticking to it and just trusting the process, because it can be hard.
thank
Yeah.
you. It
Yeah.
does. In the beginning, it is overwhelming and you do want those quick fixes. Like, I was one of those like people. I'm like, okay, if I don't eat this banana, then I'm gonna have a good skin day. It's gonna be good. But yeah, you just have to trust the process, and like keeping in mind that, yeah, when your body's been in this state of inflammation for so long, it's not gonna come down overnight. And the mindset portion is absolutely crucial.
Yeah. Detaching from the outcome is important, but hard. But hard.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Mandy, thank you so much for sharing your journey. If there's anybody that has any questions, you can drop them below. Mandy, yeah, loves chatting about everything health and wellness. So drop any questions below. Did you have any parting words? Let's say for people that would be Mandy 3 years ago, just starting the journey, and then maybe another parting words for people that are in the thick of it. So kind of the younger Mandy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Before I started the program, I think I knew that there was something kind of wrong, not wrong, but like I knew that my health wasn't where I wanted it to be and I wanted to get it into a state, but I didn't know how. And back then, like thinking about me before I started the program, I just like there was just an intuition that something was off and that I needed to change it. And then when I found you, it was almost like too good to be true. I like came across you and I was like, something just told me like you have to join this person's program. You have to like take your health into your own hands. So I feel like if you're feeling unwell, or if you're feeling like there's something you want to change or there's something you want to explore with your health, like to do it, to listen to yourself, because if you're not feeling good, you need to seriously take stock of that and recognize that and absolutely change it. Like, you're really the only person that can help yourself, and you just have to take action. And yeah, like me now, I definitely would recommend this group like 1,000%. It's just so much more than clear skin and recipes, and like you learn so much about yourself, and it's really priceless.
Mhm. Yeah, and it is like you have such a strong drive, because it is for a lot of people. It's easier, not easier. So it's easier to make a decision when you have done a lot of trial and error and you're in a really debilitated state. If you haven't gotten
Yeah.
to that point, that's when a lot of people are like, oh, come up with excuses. And then they always go back to their default mode and what's comfortable. And they're like, oh, but maybe
Yeah.
I'll try this. Maybe I'll try that. And I've seen the shift where people, I'll chat with them and then I'll see them 3 months later and it's game over. So
Yeah.
well done for having, yeah, that motivation. But sometimes it's also helpful where it's like, okay, if you're at a state where it is somewhat manageable, take action now before you get
Yeah.
to the state where you are in a debilitated state like you were, where
Mhm.
there's just every ball you're trying to juggle, and it's a lot. So yeah.
You don't want to get there. It's definitely, it's being so in tune with myself now. I would never be able to put off something like this for so long and being complacent with it and just accepting it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely easier said than done, just to like check in with yourself and be like, okay, how am I feeling? What can I do? And sometimes you really like, you just need to reach out for help, and it's not something that you should just be complacent with, especially with eczema. Like, it's really, like, I'm like 95% clear, and I never thought that I would see this day so soon. But just staying on track and like clean eating and like the mindset portion and just taking care of yourself and like everything we learn, it goes such a long way. Like past
And their
the
tools,
clear standards, like I'll be like implementing these things for life.
yeah. And it's like the whole idea is so you have the tools to do this for life. It's not about right a 6-month program, and it's not about just going through this and then having clear skin. It's about having the tool. So even if it's not skin related and it's your gut, you're like, oh, hang on, something's not right. What is my body telling me? All right, let me take action so I don't get to the point where I'm in a 3-year flare up.
Yeah, that's a very long time. And I was in almost a 2-year flare up, and it was a year and a half in, and I was just kind of like at a dead end. I was like, I can't do this anymore, and I'm so happy I did. And it's easier said than done for some people, but it's definitely something, like, your health is not something you should just be complacent with. It's not something you should put on the back burner. Everything.
Yeah. Okay. And then the second question, what would be any words of wisdom or any words to help people that are going through the program now, or maybe not even on the program, but just on the healing journey midway through?
Yeah, just, I think, trust yourself and trust the process. And if there's something that feels like intuitive to you, that feels good, that you want to try, like, try it. I feel like I've kind of come like out of my comfort zone in a way with this group. And I've just like, even just talking to people who are on the same kind of journey, you just kind of start to like, you feel less alone, and you make like little friendships, and you build this like support system. But it's like, if you're feeling alone, like, reach out, even if it's not somebody that has eczema and can't really relate to you. I think just be there for yourself, and know that like you don't have to go through it alone, and absolutely trust the process. Always trust the process.
That's really, really powerful, because you can just go have eczema and feel so isolated and alone and not have anybody to speak to. And a lot of people don't speak about their eczema to their family or their friends. They just hide it under long sleeves. I did that for most of my life. And it is nice to be able to have a community where you can talk to other people who have eczema, because usually you're just like, I'm not normal. What's wrong with me? Why am I going through this when none of my friends are?
And people think that, I mean, maybe not everybody, but I think people think that it's a bit shallow sometimes if you're crying about your skin because you're having a bad skin day, and it's like, it's just skin. But it's very hard when it's something that is the first thing that people see and the first thing that you see. And flares are by no means like easy. Like, sometimes they're painful and they spread, and they really can be debilitating. It's more than it's skin deep. It's not just surface level. It really is hard, challenging having a skin condition, and not a lot of people see that. And there's really no way they could relate. You can't really make them feel the way that you feel. So it definitely helps to have a support system, but there's really no support system like this one. It's just been so helpful.
Oh, good. And that's the thing. You don't have to do it alone.
You don't. You really don't. Even if it's like a stranger on the internet. Like, I have talked to so many people on Reddit about steroid withdrawal who I've never met in my life, but it's just to have that support system and someone to just tell you that it's okay if you're feeling like that, and they get it. Sometimes that's all you need.
Normalize your experience. You're not alone. It's not just you. It's okay.
I'm always here for anyone that needs to vent. Come to me.
Come to me. So, and that's a good takeaway, is that you don't have to do it alone. There's always people to speak to, whether it's somebody in this group or somewhere else. Like, just, there's no need just to try and manage everything. Because one thing that I have noticed with everybody who I've worked with in the program and just spoken to as well is that everybody with eczema cares. They're always trying to help. Look at us, trying to help everybody. Social workers, crisis workers, nurses, like stay-at-home moms, like they're all carers and giving, and not having boundaries to prioritize themselves. So yeah, if you are at that point where you do need to give yourself some love, yeah, put a chat below or send me or Mandy a message, and we're always happy to chat and help out.
Yeah, definitely. It's okay to have a bad day. It's normal.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, we all know what it's like to have a bad skin day. So yeah. Okay, Mandy. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I think, yeah, there are a lot of good little aha moments, and I think that's going to give a lot of people some inspiration. So thank you so much for sharing your journey.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Anytime. I loved it.
All right, we'll see you soon. Bye, Mandy.
Bye.